Let's go back to some old stomping grounds here. One of the first major topics on the channel was discussing the Pacific Northwest and what a disheveled disaster zone it has become. 2 years on, well, no, not quite. Let's just roll it back a little bit. We've only been at this for, 18-ish months at this point. But, yeah, since then, since the summer of love, they just have their fun during that time and they're just gonna move on. Really looks like they haven't. The Pacific Northwest is still a disheveled shithole. Amazon temporarily relocating employees from downtown Seattle office amid rise in violent crimes. Okay, cool. Once again, Seattle, ground zero for all of this fucking nonsense. That's where the Chaz, Chop, Chud, whatever fucking zone you want to call it, that protest that was just full of lovely people and they wouldn't possibly do anything. Remember, it just descended into rape and murder within, rape and assault within the first couple of hours before the first nightfall. And then it just descended into fucking, outright murder within the first 2 or 4 days. I can't remember. It's been a minute. But compare and contrast that with a right-wing protest in Canada. That went on for 3 weeks, and not a single incident you can point to directly, except for when Trudeau just decided that he had enough and that he needed to start moving things out of there because those extremists could potentially, once all of our plants get there, they could start shooting the place up. Sure they could there, dude. Let's see why Amazon is deciding to temporarily shelve their downtown offices. Amazon is temporarily relocating employees from its downtown Seattle office due to an increase in violent crimes in the area, the company said on March 11th. The tech giant office is located at 300 Pine, about half a mile from its main headquarters on 7th Avenue in Seattle. Roughly 1,800 Amazon employees are working there. And that's just like office workers. I don't think that they have a big old supply warehouse there, but could be mistaken. Given recent incidents near 3rd and Pine, we're providing employees currently at that location with alternative office space elsewhere, getting the fuck out of this high-priced, crime-ridden area. An Amazon spokesperson said in an email statement to the Seattle Times, "We are hopeful that conditions will improve if they decide to hire back some police officers, but good fucking luck there. It is unclear how many of the 1,800 are being relocated, but given many have been working remotely at home due to the coup. Amazon's decision to relocate employees comes after a string of violent crimes in the area, including one that claimed the life of a 15-year-old boy on March 2nd. Police are still searching for the suspect and have appealed to the public for help identifying the attacker. Since February 21st, there have been at least 3 shootings, 2 stabbings, 1 carjacking in the area. Amid an uptick of violence, Seattle Police Chief Adrian Diaz announced on March 3rd that the police department would be launching an initiative to curb violent crime behavior in the area surrounding 3rd and Pike and Pine. Alright. Commenting on Amazon's decision to relocate, a spokesperson for Seattle Mayor Bruce Harrell. A new mayor. Same problems. Nice to see it. Because it was some broad, I can't remember. But he noted that his offices work every day to make downtown a safe and thriving neighborhood for residents, workers, and businesses. I'm sure. While it will take time to reverse long-standing safety issues, Mayor Harrell's early efforts are a critical first step to address crime and improve safety through dedicated SPD officers, those that are left, a mobile SPD precinct. Well, how about that one that you seceded to the fucking rioters that were down there? And additional environmental changes. Environmental changes. Are you actually worried about climate change, or are you just talking about the environment of crime that you've allowed to foster there because you just kneecap the fucking police at every single opportunity? Go ahead. The choice is yours. Mayor Harrell will continue to develop a comprehensive approach to public safety and collaboration. No. They don't need a fucking approach. They just need action. But you don't really have the forces to do such. But again, the Pacific Northwest, it's not just Seattle that's in there. Let's check in with Portland. No. That'd be Portland, my dude. Remember, this is the same area in 2020 during the election. No, I'm not going to talk about any goofy shit that happened on there. All it was there was a ballot provision that just legalized every type of fucking drug imaginable. You can go ahead and you can just shoot up in the middle of the streets. You can fucking do as much meth as you please, and nobody will give you a citation for it because that's the progressive way of doing things, and they've got big brain takes on their crime spikes. This is, hey, from last year, but same shit continues to happen. All you need to do is just type in Portland and crime in any search engine, and you will find somebody getting shot, somebody getting stabbed. We could have had specific examples of that, but shit is still happening in Portland because good old Mayor Ted, I'm going to take on Antifa. Sure you are, pal. Democrats in Oregon control the governor's mansion, have a veto-proof majority in both chambers of the state legislature, and are firmly in charge of Portland, the state's biggest city. Firmly in charge is a little bit of a tenuous assertion, so it makes total sense to blame Republicans for staggering rise in shootings. Why is that? Is it Republicans shooting? No, it's Republicans getting shot, like the one guy who was hunted and killed by that fucking crazy man who was interviewed by Vice. Once again, fuck Vice. But how are they rationalizing this? A friend is trying to sell his condo downtown, but large parts of downtown have been turned into a giant homeless camp, so there are few buyers, even in the hot real estate market. The nearby streets are pockmarked with tents, and curbs frequently sport human waste. This is it's Portland. I thought this was San Francisco. Homelessness and its attendant crime are getting so bad that police in many cities don't bother to investigate many property crimes unless they're against wealthy people. Like remember Ted Wheeler's building, because it was getting assaulted by that myth or that idea, Antifa or whatever. They tried to set the lobby on fire. You guys remember that, right? They took big action on that. But meanwhile, the 100 days of peaceful protest that was out there every single fucking night, continuing to try to burn down the federal courthouse. But as soon as Trump sends in federal officers to protect the federal courthouse, that's all he did. It was a Nazi regime. It's the stormtroopers that are coming down there. God, it's the fucking corruption is so obvious. Homelessness and its attendant crime. They don't guess property crimes unless they're wealthy people and involve things of great value. Just among my own friends and acquaintances in the past year, I've seen 3 cars stolen, 1 I watched happen, 1 car damaged in a smash and grab, and 2 home invasions and break-ins. This isn't a story unique to Portland. Petty and property crime are exploding, along with gun crimes and homelessness in cities across the nation. New York City just elected a new Democratic mayor whose main credential was a cop. People are freaking out. Yeah, and like I said, this is an older article, and it looks like Eric Adams is not quite the guy he campaigned on being, but you know what? Hey, you get what you vote for. But now we know all this stuff, so where do the Republicans come into this? Which brings us to the GOP. The Republican Party is so committed to making morbidly rich people even richer. Okay, who's the party of big money? You just take a look at the donations and realize, all the big corporations donated to one political party pretty much exclusively, and that's the right. Okay, cool. So, and this weekend, Republican Senator Rob Portman announced on TV that they wouldn't go along with funding a bipartisan infrastructure bill by letting the IRS hire more auditors to catch rich tax cheats. Cool. Petty crimes and property crimes are skyrocketing in Portland. It's the rich people's fault. It's the IRS not going after rich people, which are fleeing Portland. Ergo, why there's such a hot property market. Okay, cool. But okay, cool. So it's obviously it's the wealthy, it's the powerful, it's their problem, it's their fault that Portland's a shithole. It has nothing to do with the governor being as corrupt as the day is long. Oregon court rules governor unlawfully used clemency to release convicted felons. Wonder why that crime is going up as well. A judge has ordered a pause on early releases of prisoners who committed crimes as juveniles, granting in part the relief sought in a lawsuit filed against Oregon Governor Kate Brown, a Democrat. By 2 district attorneys and 4 family members of homicide victims. Brown has granted early release to nearly 1,200 convicted felons. Wow. Including 10 convicted murderers since March 1st, 2020. Cool. Marion County Circuit Judge Court Judge David Lath ruled on March 1st that the governor had unlawfully conferred her clemency powers to the Oregon Parole Board. The board lacked delegated authority to hear the parole cases of offenders at issue, Lath wrote in his ruling. It was only the governor's clemency order that purported to provide that authority. According to the Lynn County District Attorney Doug Martini, that's a hilarious name, a petitioner in the suit that transfer of authority shielded Brown from accountability. A woman, a Democrat no less, an upper crust, a liberal elite white woman skirting responsibility and accountability. Oh my God, I can barely believe what I'm reading. For commuting the sentences of inmates convicted of violent crimes. What the governor attempted to do was commute the sentences without having the label that she was the one who released them. Listen, I'd like to release these convicted felons and murderers because we need to hunt down those evil MAGA people that are in the streets just burning up Portland night after night. So if I could find a way to do this without actually having to put like my name on it, that'd be great. But again, if you're releasing felons, okay, and they weren't going to commit any more crimes, that would be theoretically fine. Okay, maybe they're in for just the long terms and they've learned their lesson. Okay, I could go ahead and I can see the other side of this. They've already, rehabilitated, because that's apparently the point of the or one of the big selling features of the current incarceration system, or rehabilitation, all that kind of fucking fun jazz, whatever. Maybe they have learned their lesson. That's fine. And if they do end up committing crime again, there's some good law enforcement officers that are going to be out there. Actually, no. It's not a surprise to anybody, though. Hiring at police departments rebounds as resignations continue to soar. They're hiring new, awfully trained officers. Okay, no offense to them, but they aren't going to have the same training the veterans do. Okay, thanks to the kneecapping of every police department across the nation for at least 2020, most police departments, most sheriff's offices have been refunded and given a little tip as well. But some jurisdictions have continued to stick to their guns, and they're bearing out the consequences of that. And once officers realize that they could get full retirement or even partial retirement, they're taking it, because the cost and the risk of just doing their fucking job is so high at this point. Okay, we could have a segment on the channel every fucking day of a cop being accused of doing something, having the body cam footage, okay, just showing that they didn't do anything, but because the allegation came across, immediate administrative leave. Oh, they have to resign. Oh, we have to figure this out. And then they got to go through trial. They got to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars. If not them, their police unions, which are as corrupt as a motherfucker, by the way. They have to shell out all of this money in order for a defense for some basic fucking act. All to what? Better fund the government? Okay, because that's where all that fucking money goes anyways. You could not pay me enough to become a police officer in today's day and age, because, okay, cool. I think that I would do a good job as a police officer. I have a pretty good sense of what's right and what's wrong, but that's just me. There's some laws that I wouldn't necessarily enforce, and some that I would enforce a little bit stricter than others, but that's my sense of morality. A little bit grayer than most, but I think I do a pretty decent job. But then at the same time, I would also be asked to enforce these stupid fucking COVID regulations, and I wouldn't do it. I couldn't do it in good conscience, but that's what a lot of the people, I was just following orders, especially the new recruits who don't want to rustle any fucking feathers. You know, the new recruits who couldn't properly pass the physical requirements normally, okay, to just run around with their fully equipped belts, okay, be like Kim Potter. You remember, taser, 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 and then shoot somebody. Theoretically justifiably so, but whatever. They do something stupid because they aren't strong enough to ragdoll some fucking stoned delinquent out of their vehicle. Now you put everybody on alert, and you make cops second guess when they don't have the moments in some high stress situations to second guess their actions. You end up with more dead people. You end up with more gun shy cops. You end up with weaker police departments, and that's what you're seeing specifically in the Pacific Northwest. out east in New York and the places like that, you just see completely kneecapped sectors where they just don't have the cops showing up again because, again, they get paid somewhere around minimum wage to do the fucking job and they get zero fucking support. And for what? What? Oh, maybe you could get up to your pension age, but more likely than not, you'll get slapped with something because there's always the defund the police, fuck the police crowd that are just always constantly gunning for you. Like I said, I like good cops. I don't like bad cops that enforce bad fucking policy, but it's a tough spot to be in. But let's just give you a little bit of information here before we duck out. New hires, the police department's rebounded, retirements slowed, and resignations soared in 2021, according to a new national survey by Police Executive Research Forum. The survey found that the numbers of new hires jumped 21% among responding agencies compared with 2020, though still falling short of the 2019 level. What changed during that time? Don't want to mention that? Okay. The police workforce experienced a significant drop in 2020 due to the pandemic, the defund the police movement, budget cuts, according to Perf. Also in 2021, the number of retirements slowed by 6% compared to the year before, though we're still higher than in 2019. Meanwhile, resignations continued to soar by 40%. Oh, well, retirement slowed by 6%. But how about resignations? 40 fucking percent. Okay, oh, well, you could go ahead and you can write your headline however you want to, but the numbers don't lie and they spell disaster for you compared with 2020. So even in 2021, resignations soared over when the police departments were under their most amount of scrutiny. Bizarre. Perf sent voluntary surveys in mid-January to agency chief members in the U.S., including sheriffs, commissioners, and superintendents. They received 179 replies. 5 Canadian agencies participated in the survey, and they also found that the rise and fall of the workforce numbers differ vastly among agencies, probably depending where they are, what type of government they have in the places where they have their precincts. Small agencies with fewer than 50 officers saw a rare hiring boost in 2020. That makes sense. And it got even better in 2021 with another 51% jump. In contrast, agencies with more than 50 officers, large cities, saw a hiring cut in 2020, which began to rebound last year. When it came to resignation, big agencies with over 500 officers, so like your big cities, and who are in control of those big cities, by the way, saw the biggest rate of increase in 2021, 44% compared to the year before. So 44% higher resignations in 2021 from the big agencies. Okay, cool. You can see where this is going, and oh boy, if you just delve too deep into this type of fucking news on a consistent basis, you might want to be resigning like a lot of these fucking officers, precipitated by putting a service pistol in your mouth and pulling the trigger. But hopefully you don't, and hopefully you realize that there are big red flags flying in the Pacific Northwest. Not the one with the hammer and sickle on it, but there's big warning signs. Don't treat your police officers like shit, and guess what? You won't have crime problems. It's not something that ever pops up in small towns. They don't seem to have this type of crime problem, but they also don't disrespect their police officers or make them enforce retarded fucking pieces of policy. I don't know, maybe those square states, maybe those flyover states, maybe you could learn from them. But no, you guys, you coastal elites, you live on those fucking coasts in the middle of the country. They don't matter. We're just going to continue to tell the plebs that they can defund the police, and we'll just live in our gated communities with our private security. They're well armed. Meanwhile, police with your guns, you hardly need those. You just need tasers. If you do need to use a firearm, just aim for the limbs. It can't be that hard. I do it in my movies all the time. Ain't that a bitch? But let's get a little bit more specified. And we're going to stick with institutional corruption. But this time, yeah, we're going to move from the Pacific Northwest. We're going to move to simply the Midwest. We're going to go to Michigan for a minute because there's some news that's coming out of this. And boy, howdy, is it a fun fucking read. With that said, thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. I want you to follow your gut and get after it. Take care, everyone.